Hey guys, thanks for coming back. Join us here at Salty Ginger Talk. Glad to have you back. So today's episode is about planning and the importance of planning. Came across an old quote. I've heard it before, but it's easy to hear stuff and then not keep it front of mind. It's a quote by Benjamin Franklin that says, "If you fail to plan, you should plan to fail." And I think it's absolutely correct. It's a great way to think about things, and the more prepared you are, the better equipped you are to deal with the inevitable problems or issues or changes that pop up. Um, so we're going to talk about kind of all of that, and just personally, my wife and I this weekend we went over kind of what we're happy with, what we're not happy with, and what we wanted to accomplish over the next month, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, et cetera, et cetera. And going through that process, kind of really underscored how loose we've gotten with our planning. And we've kind of allowed life to happen to us instead of taking control of the things we have control over. And that's just kind of carte blanche, like across every aspect of our life, professionally, personally, when it comes to health, when it comes to nutrition. We've just kind of been riding the current. And look, the current may take you out to Hawaii and leave you in a great tropical spot, but it may not. And I'd much rather control my own destiny. And I know, my wife is of the same thought process that I am, but it just kind of underscored to me, hey, I'm not doing a very good job of planning right now, and it's something that I've really been good at throughout my career. But no one's perfect or great 100% of the time, but it leaves you kind of flat-footed when you run into problems. So I think the quote by Benjamin Franklin is great. Clearly, he was a very intelligent guy, and kind of was very curious. He was always asking questions and trying to learn new things. And I think it's a great quote, but it also made me think of other quotes that I've heard previously that, even though they seem like they're the opposite of what Benjamin Franklin is saying, they're actually directly related to it. The first one is Dwight Eisenhower. And as you probably recall, Dwight Eisenhower led the Allied forces to bring World War II to an end, and then was obviously the US president for two terms in the 50s. But his quote was, "Plans are worthless, but planning is everything." And that goes along with another person who you may not necessarily directly associate with Dwight Eisenhower, but a very similar thought process, of Mike Tyson. And Mike Tyson's quote, which I love, someone I worked with actually got me a picture of Mike Tyson with this quote stenciled over it, and it's in my office at home. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. And I think both of those are the absolute correct way to think about it. It's so important to plan, and you get so much out of planning, but I can virtually guarantee you that no plan you ever put together is going to go the way you actually planned it out. It's rare when those things happen, and that's what both of those quotes are saying, is that you can have all the plans you want, but you got to be prepared for when the big wave comes in and knocks your ass over tea kettle, and you've got to improvise and you've got to deal with a situation that you weren't ready for before it happened. If you had done or have done planning before that eventuality happens, you're going to be in a much better spot and you're going to be much better prepared to deal with whatever problems inevitably are going to come up. So, great way to think about it. I think it's a great way to think about it. Fail to plan, plan to fail, but you need to be prepared that your plan's not going to go the way you planned it out. Even though it doesn't, it's terribly important to plan it out, and be prepared for things to go wrong, because they're gonna go wrong. So, with all that said, let's just talk about the benefits of planning. And, I would argue that planning on anything, whatever is important to you, maybe you want to lose weight, maybe you want to improve how you eat, maybe you want to make more money, maybe you want to invest the money that you've got in a more intelligent way. Maybe you want to develop relationships with people. Maybe you want to focus on growing a specific segment of your business. All of those are things that could have plans put around them. And again, those plans may or may not come to fruition the way you developed them. I would argue they're more likely to not come to fruition that way, but you do have a much higher likelihood of the plan actually coming to fruition in some way, shape, or form if there is a plan. You might get lucky and have things fall in your lap or have things go your way. But one of my favorite sayings is even a broken clock is right twice a day. That doesn't mean the clock is not broken. So you got to be ready, and the best way to do that is to plan. So what are those benefits? What are the benefits of planning? Well, first, it provides direction. So if you want to, whatever, pick any of those subjects I talked about, lose weight, eat better, develop better relationships, make more money, invest more money, build a side gig so you can quit your day job. All of those require some type of direction. And if you think about it, there's a great book by Stephen Covey, The 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. One of those 7 habits is start with the end in mind. And what that means is, where is it you want to go? What is the finish line? What's the goal that you're trying to achieve? And then if you start there and work back to where you are right now, you can come up with steps or processes that you could take to go from where you're at to get to where you want to be. And without sitting down and actually putting that plan together, it's going to be really difficult to find a direction. You think about it from a pilot perspective. Before a pilot flies a plane, they have a flight plan. I'm going to fly from this spot. I'm going to hit this waypoint. Then I'm going to hit this waypoint. And then I'm going to hit this waypoint. And then I'm going to be at my destination. That's a plan. You would never see a pilot take off and say, well, we're in Los Angeles. We're flying to New York. We're just going to fly east for a while and we'll figure out where we're at. Like, that's just not how it works. But think about how often you do that in your personal life. I want to lose weight. Okay, well, what are you doing about it? What are the steps that you're going to take to lose weight? What are they? How are you doing it? You know that to lose weight, you need to be in a caloric deficit. So what are you doing to create a caloric deficit, to measure and ensure that you're in a caloric deficit, to make sure that you're doing it in a sustainable way? Those are all things you can plan out. I want to make more money. What is it you're going to do to make yourself more valuable in the labor market so that you can get more money? Because people don't pay you more simply because they like you. They don't pay you more because you're a good person. They pay you based on the value you can create for them. Or if you're an entrepreneur and you want to make your own money and not have to deal with someone telling you what to do, what is it you're going to do? What value are you going to bring or create into the market that's going to get you compensated for the work you're doing to create that value? So planning is going to provide you direction. And that's the way that you should think about it. The plan, even though it won't come to fruition the way you planned it out, is good for direction. It's great for direction. It's necessary for direction. Very relatedly, it reduces uncertainty, because when you plan out, you're going to think of all of the pitfalls, hurdles, problems that you could encounter between where you're at and where you want to get to. I want to start a business, but I don't have any money. Okay, so what are some solutions to that? You could bootstrap it and start small and work your way up. You could go out and find investors. You could go get a bank loan. But by digging into it and trying to come up with solutions for those problems, it's going to reduce the uncertainty you have around the situation that you're in. So it's just a great way to really make yourself feel better and get yourself to the point where you can lean in and start taking your shots. Because if you're just uncertain about stuff, what most people will do is nothing. It's very difficult to get people to make decisions. And there's a great, Dan Ariely is a professor that basically behavioral sciences at Duke. And he references a study of organ donation rates in European countries. And there's this wide fluctuation. Some countries have very high rates of participation in organ donation, and some countries have very low. And they wanted to figure out why that is. What is it that the countries have in common that have high participation? So, like, if you pass away, they donate your organs to help other people that need those organs. Some countries very high rates, like in the 90 percentiles, and some very low rates, under 10 percentile. And they started looking and saying, well, like, okay, so you would think like Germany and Austria, they're similar in terms of their culture, they're close together. Are they the same? Oh, no, they're not. Spain and France, very similar. No, they're not. And I don't know if those are the right examples, but they eliminated that culture or geography was the common denominator that was driving the discrepancies in these rates. What they actually found out was the way the form was at the DMV or wherever you go to get your license or government office in each country. So if you had to opt out, if the form said, unless you check this box, we're going to assume you want to be an organ donor and you don't have to, or you have to check this box, or we're going to donate your organs when you die. Those countries had a very high participation rate. Conversely, if the box was an opt in and said, unless you check this box, we are not going to donate your organs. Those countries where the form was set up so they had to opt in, the participation rate was very low. So think about that. It's something as valuable as your organs in your body. Most people won't make a decision on that. They will just opt for whatever is on the form and call it good. And that's wild. And I would argue that it's because they're not sure what they should do, so they do nothing. And that planning will reduce that uncertainty, and it'll help bring some calm to your mind. It'll make you feel better about your decisions, at least to the point where you can start taking steps forward. And I think that's a good thing. Third, it enforces decision making, like we just talked about. So you're going to feel much better about making a decision if you feel like you have brainstormed and planned and tried to cover all the eventualities that you could encounter on the path that you're about to embark on. And planning really enforces and reinforces decision making, because you really think about things from a 360-degree view and really try to brainstorm and come up with ways to deal with things that pop up. And again, your plan's not going to go the way you plan it. It rarely goes exactly the way you plan it. But the benefit is, because you've thought through all this stuff and planned for all this stuff, you're ready, or more ready, when a surprise pops up and you have to deal with it. So planning really enforces decision making, really makes decision making easier because you feel better about the decisions that you're making. Fourth, organization. It forces you to bring organization around what you're doing. So if you're trying to go out and raise money for a business that you want to start, let's say that you've been an apprentice electrician, you've got your hours in, and you want to go start your own electric company. Well, in order to do that, you have to incorporate, or do you want to be a sole proprietor? Where are you going to get the money from? How does insurance work? How does workers' compensation insurance work? You have to organize all of those things and be ready to go into business, and planning will force that to happen. So it's really a great benefit from planning, is it brings organization around those things. And going back up one step, it enforces the decisions that you make during that process. So planning enables all of those things when you do it, which is great. It informs you. Planning gives you answers to questions you may have. And I heard a great quote over the weekend, or I heard a great statement over the weekend, that the only cure for uncertainty is action. The only cure for doubt is action. And it's the truth. Like, I say a lot, the only way you know if you can trust someone is to trust them and see what happens. It sucks, but there's no other way to do it. I think I can trust them. I'm not sure. You don't know. You don't know until you trust someone. And that's the only way you can find out if you can trust them or not. And it informs all of those situations. It brings you all of that information so that you're ready to make those decisions. You're organized around it. You've reduced your uncertainty. You've got the information you need to make good decisions, and at least consider taking steps forward. So very important. It increases efficiency, right? So you've already gathered up the stuff. You've knocked down as many barriers as you can. You've answered as many questions as you can. You're going to be more efficient, be able to move quicker, because you don't have to go back and research. Oh, I didn't think of that. I got to go back and look at this. I wasn't prepared for that. I got to deal with that. So it increases that efficiency and makes your operation, whatever the operation is, work much better. Even if it's, so let's go back to losing weight, right? So if you have done your research and you know what type of food you want to eat because they're healthier for you, they're good for your body, they're going to create a calorie deficit if you eat them in the portions which you researched, you're going to be much more efficient on how you execute that plan if you've done a plan. If you just wing it, okay, now if you just wing it, you're out on the road and you're hungry. What do? Like, you don't have a plan in place for what happens when I'm driving by KFC and, I'm trying to stick to my nutrition plan, but I'm hungry right now and I don't have a good plan in place. It's real easy to slip in those situations. So planning is going to really increase that efficiency in your whole operation. And it creates a competitive advantage because you'd be surprised how many people don't plan. You'd be surprised how many people just wing it and show up and say, oh, well, I hope somebody thought of this. I hope somebody's got a plan for us to get this done. Think about how many times you've been to an event or a work scenario where someone will say, what's the plan? Like that, that should be really troubling, especially if you hear someone in a leadership position say, what's the plan? If they haven't thought through that, that's a real problem. And it's a competitive advantage if you are the one that can drive the plan, that can put together the plan, that can bring the structure to the plan. Terribly important skill to bring to the table. And it does create a competitive advantage because a lot of people don't bring that skill to the table. And I don't know if it's because they're afraid to take their shots, if they're afraid to get blamed if something goes wrong. But all I can tell you is having a plan is way better than not having a plan. Even when it goes sideways, even when the plan doesn't go the way you thought it was going to, having the plan is going to leave you in a much better spot to deal with whatever situations pop up because you planned before. So that's it, guys. That's the episode for today. Remember, fail to plan, plan to fail. I can't stress enough. If something's important to you, take some time and plan. Take some time and plan it out. It's never going to go the way you think that you want it to go. It's never going to go linear. It's rare for it to go just right down the line exactly the way you thought it was going to happen. When it does, enjoy that because it doesn't happen very often. But when it doesn't, you're going to be in a much better spot to continue to move forward if you've done some planning ahead of time. So, don't forget to go over to our website, saltygingertalk.com. All our content is on there. All our podcast episodes are available there. You can sign up for our newsletter there. And you can also, it would be great if you can like and subscribe to our podcast on whatever platform you consume it on. So thanks again for coming back and seeing us, guys. Really appreciate it. Everybody have a great week. We'll see you next time.